Legendary gangster George Branch from 118th Road, SouthSide of Jamaica, Queens, has some choice words to say to all the fakes, rats, and pretend to be gangsters. But somebody made a huge mistake when they killed my nephew slash son, Fred, also known as Maserati Fox. My nephew, 50 Cent, he never got to know me all of these years because he was raised with the belief that I was his uncle and not his father. But that's another story that's too long to get into at the moment. But I kept my promise to his mother, Annie Green, rest in peace, long enough. But she always said, George, remember that Fred, also known as Maserati, is your son. In 2013, I wrote to my brother, Stephen Branch, explaining to him that I think it's time I inform Fred that I'm his biological father because I'm doing a death sentence of 100 to life. So far, I gave back 25 years, which knocks me down to 75 to life. Once I reach out to all those who's now in power, they'll be glad to bring me home with the help of a high-powered attorney because my hand definitely called for it. I explained to my brother, who was recently released from prison after doing 29 years, that I wanted his help in taking a DNA test with Fred, who was still in prison and was about to be released. Back to the Big Apple, New York City. Because I was 90% sure that Fred was my son, but I needed to be 100% sure. But unfortunately, he was killed on January 3rd, 2014. Before I could make this happen, rest in peace, I really wanted to explain to him why I kept my promise to his dear mother after all these years. But I felt it was really time to come clean. So this is a cry out to 50 Cent, also known as Curtis Jackson, to help me find out for sure. I will not rest peacefully until everyone in Baisley Projects that participated in Fred's death feel my pain. We all know that Fred was murdered because all them bitch-ass fake players in the game feared him. Fred was in those streets from a young age because he was taught by the best at a young age. When he chose the gangster lifestyle, that's another story as well. 50 Cent, my G, I understand the real code of a gunslinger. That's why I understood the meaning of Fred's death. Because he lived by the gun. And it wasn't no surprise when he died by the gun. But when them cowards shot my sister Vanessa Branches, her daughter Raisha, and my great-nephew Yu, who was only 19 years old and wasn't involved in the gang, they violated the code. So now ain't no more rules for those who broke them. They all must answer to me now. The original Southside gunslinger of Jamaica, Queens. 50 Cent, I really don't have to tell my whole story because other people will tell you who I am because they knew me when I was still the original gangster from the South Side. A lot of people feel confident enough to whisper my name out of fear. I'm that living legend that's sitting in a cold prison cell. But soon as all of those out there recognize me, I'm where I'm at. I can rest assured I'll be that living legend sitting in my cozy living room. Not to boast or glorify this prison shit, but I've been to every maximum prison in the state of New York. And every real gunman from other boroughs who's about taking money or making it know George Branch very well. Many years ago, before a lot of people were in their daddy nutsack, I put Queens on the map, particularly the south side of Queens. Even when I took this fall, I was still making niggas respect the south side because I left one hell of a legacy out there. I'm tired of hearing and reading about these fake punk ass niggas trying to tell a story about the south side, especially them rats who Don Diva and Feds Magazine give a platform to speak. Need I mention all their names? You see 50 Cent, it's very, very few real gunslingers who ever talk or tell their story about all the bitch-ass so-called kingpins. They all must let a gunslinger eat off their plate, or I will eat them. I will blow your mind with all of the so-called gangsters who the streets talk about on the south side that was getting mad paper in the 80s. Who fed me and had to set me out? Yeah, I'm the person who opened a dance on the block 150th Street in 1984. Daring Fat Cat to make a move against me. 50 Cent, I raised and taught almost all the real gunmen on the south side from all the crews that was out there. Ask around, because like I said, I will let them tell most of my life story. Yes, I'm about that real gangster that people get fidget and real nervous when I pop up on 150th Street or any other part of Jamaica, Queens. That's a fact. Some even used to flee before I came on the scene just to avoid me. So I would like to vibe with you and Lloyd Banks about doing my biography story about a real bank robber and man-child in the Promised Land, book by Claude Brown. Ain't got shit on my life story. I'll be a gangster forever because I've been a gangster from the very tender age of 8. So basically, I feel like I was born a gangster. I've been to all the training schools, DFY. As a matter of fact, I went to the same training school Claude Brown attended. So you can check the New York Post dated June 6, 1975 or June 7th, 1975. I was on the front page at 17 years old. Just to give you an idea about me, I also have 16 armed bank robberies that I'm doing all this time for. I have 31 years behind these walls. And my freedom is a must. And by any means necessary. I think your boy Lloyd Banks could even play me in the movie. I guess I like his last name, Banks. So check my background, ask around, and I'm sure people will tell you stories about my life. Then get back to me if you want to hear a